I'm going to show you how to make the cable that fits between the controller module and the oven. You'll notice that my cable here has 2 female ends. But before we get started, I want to talk to you the difference between a male end and a female end. Believe it or not, these are the sockets here. This is the male end. This is the female end. And you notice in this situation, the female end actually fits inside the male socket. That actually confuses a lot of people. Here is actually the male pin, and here is the female socket here. And you'll notice that the male pin fits inside the female socket. If you just think the birds and the bees, I know enough said about that. You'll notice that we always look at the pin to decide whether we're working on the male end or the female end. Just remember, for the SPROOS cable, use the 2 female ends. It's the socket that we're looking at, and we're looking at the pin. It's the pin that receives the male pin for the female end. So let's get this thing going. Okay, step 1 in making this cable is I cut me some 18-inch lengths of wire here, and to me, I kind of like it when the cables are fairly straight. So what I did was I lined everything up as best as I can, and then I tape it with a piece of blue tape here, and you can see the ends aren't exactly neat. So what I'm going to do is find the shortest end here, which looks like it's that one there, and then I'm going to just trim these off so that the cable is the same length. Here we go, that's all straight. And then just pull these out like this to get these straight. Oops, sorry about that. You'll see they're all different lengths here. That's the shortest one, so I'm going to cut everything equal to the shortest one here. Alright, so that should make my cable nice and straight. Step 2, what I want to do is I want to strip the insulation from these wires. I only want to use, strip about 1/4 of an inch from the wires, just like that. I'm using 16 gauge wire, and it's important to use 16 gauge wire because it's a possibility these wires could carry 4 amps in them, and we need something that's going to handle that amperage without getting hot. So I'm going to go ahead and strip all these wires, and then next I'm going to tin the socket, I'm going to tin the wire, and then solder it all together. Okay, so what I've done is I've trimmed about 1/4 of an inch of insulation off of these. And then what I'm going to do is just twist the wires here a little bit. Now I'm going to add a little bit of flux to each of these ends. Got me some wire solder here. Got me my soldering iron. Get a little bit of solder on that. This process is called tinning, and what it does is it gets the wire ready to receive the socket. Now I'm going to tin all the ends like this. I'm also going to tin the sockets here. And how I'm going to tin the sockets is I've got a little flux brush I use, and I'm going to paint each of the interiors of these sockets with a little bit of flux. Then I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of flux right there, and that's it. I'm going to do this to all the sockets, and then I'm going to tin all of the wire, and then we're going to solder all of these wires into these sockets, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I went ahead and fluxed it, tinned everything, and you'll see I have my wire tinned here. I'm sorry if this seems a little jerky or bumpy to you guys. I've actually got the camera a couple feet above me, and I'm looking at a computer monitor, and it's backwards, and it's kind of hard to see. So what I want to do is reflux this. So I'm going to put a little bit more flux on this. I'm going to reflux these 6 little sockets right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire that's been tinned and fluxed, and I'm going to sit it right in here like this. Then I'm going to get my soldering iron. I'm going to get just a little bead of solder on the end of it, just like that. And I'm going to set it on top of it and let it heat up this whole thing. Now when it heats up this whole thing, it's going to heat up this socket. And see there, the solder just flowed. So that is actually soldered in place right now. So my next step is to bend these crimps. You'll see there's like a couple crimps here. So I'm going to bend this first one here. Let me change the focus on this just a little bit for you. I'll lift it up so you can see what's going on. There we go. So I'm going to take this fin and I'm going to bend it over here, over the top of this wire, both ways. That's the bottom one. And the very top one here, I actually like to I like it a little bit on the insulation here. And like I said, I'm sorry I'm having trouble doing this because I'm looking at a monitor and it's backwards for what I'm used to seeing. So I'm just going to do it like this, and that is locked into place there. Okay, here you see I've installed one of the wires in the pin into the socket head already. Here is the other socket head here, and you'll notice it has a little flat edge here, a little flat edge here. It's a point here and a point here. That's so that when you put it in the other socket, it lines up perfectly. Now this is in the lower left hand corner, and I got the flat edges lined up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wire here and I'm going to install it here so that it matches the same size. And you push until you hear a click. And there we go. Another thing you may have noticed is I got some heat shrink tubing here on these wires. I do that because after I put the cable together, I can put heat on the heat shrink and it'll hold the cable together. That way these pins and their sockets won't move around so much. You don't have to do this. You can use one of these little twisties here to hold your cable together. Alright, I got my cable built. It's all done and ready to go. I'm going to test it with my continuity meter here. The way my continuity meter works, you get contact with the probes, you get a sound, and it shows you the resistance in ohms right here on the readout. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to take my cable and I'm going to line it up. And you can see I got the two flat areas here and the two pointed areas here. So this should be connected to this, this to this, and all the way down. So I'm just going to put one probe in here, second probe here to check it. Yep, that works. And then I'm just going to check the ones around it to see. Yep, and I'm just going to check them all the way down like this, just to make sure that everything is connected like it's supposed to be. Yeah, it looks like this cable works. Okay, well, this cable's done. On to the next.